Here's why I think that I'm prepared for that job. Let's look at that job. Right now, it manages about 345 employees with a budget about 45 million, 39 million coming from the state, and the others are additional fees. And it's responsible, that job as the chief administrator is to run the day-to-day operations of the Secretary of State and follow the oath that is outlined in the Constitution. Here's my background. I've served in corporate America, in information technology, in senior management. Matter of fact, one of my specialties was process improvements, going to various departments, tearing them down and building them back up for more efficiency and more effectiveness. After I left the legislature, after I left the private sector and went into the legislature, actually I was still doing both, I got elected to the House of Representatives. After my second year, I was on appropriations. I served on industry and insurance, those key committees. And then I got elected for another 8 years as chief executive of DeKalb County, where I managed about 8,000 employees with about a $3.4 billion budget, everything from appointing police chiefs to judges to various department heads and various boards, from graded board to model transportation board. That gave me the experience of actually running a government. So my background, if you look at my background, I've been a legislator with the legislative experience. At the same time, I've been a chief executive. I've actually run a government. Nobody else can say they've actually run a government. And so that more than qualifies me for this position, to be your Secretary of State. Now, the reason why it's important to have that legislative background, because when you look at that position, there are some remedies. I think we all have heard about the election irregularities, among other things. But there are things that the executive branch can do. The executive branch can execute certain executive orders, and I can address a lot of those issues that people are dealing with now. But at the same time, if you don't understand how that legislature works, you're going to spend your first 2 years just trying to find out where the bathroom is. You have to know the leadership, how bills get introduced, how you work it through the system. It is truly making sausage. But at the same time, again, as a chief executive running the day-to-day operation, I can manage that operation. So you want someone, I like to think that you want someone that can hit the ground day one, running that operation, coming up to speed. Now, you've heard a lot of things about the elections, and it's true. 315,000 ballots uncertified. Drop box located on private property when it should have been on public property. 5,000 people registered across the street from the Secretary of State in a facility where 5,000 people don't live. 2,000 living in a facility or registered, say they're living at a facility that's been closed for several years. The Secretary of State not willing to give up information where the Department of Justice has to sue to get information. Even Fulton County did not want to give up information. There's a lawsuit there. And the judges recently ruled that they had to give up those records. Many of us want to know, when they talk about there's no widespread fraud, well, what is wide? How wide is the fraud? We want to know that. People want to know that. People aren't stupid. And so you want a Secretary of State's office that's not going to be resistant to giving you the public information. Why not give you that information? You deserve to know that. The longer they cover it up, the more you're going to realize, wait a minute, they do have something to hide. And I don't care what anyone says. If your house is clean, you don't mind inviting them in. So that Secretary of State's office, in my opinion, should be much more open, much more transparent, where people have public trust in that office. And another thing, I'll jump back over to those 42 boards that they regulate. This is day 49 that I've called business days, that I've called that office and have not gotten a single person to answer the call. Now, it may not affect you in this room, but if you're an accountant, or if you're a college student just coming out of nursing school and you want to get your examination or you want to take your examination so you can go on and practice, pay off your loan, you try to go through that process. The red tape, it takes months and sometimes years to go through that process. It shouldn't work that way. So you want someone can come in there and fix it. Fix it because it's broken right now. And I'm not here to relitigate or to go back in the past, but we just can't make sure things happen going forward. And so I'm going to stop and answer some questions or comments and observations, but I can tell you I am equipped and I am prepared today for day one to hit the ground running as the Secretary of State and restore public trust and make it operate in a much more efficient and much more effective way. And so with that, I'll take any questions, comments, or observations.
Well, my question, can I do that? Okay. Okay, well, Susie Bowles and I were auditors in that election, and we saw the fraud, and we did affidavits with Trump attorneys, and we've done affidavits now with the FBI.
And that is not spent on really foolishness. She wanted to make sure that the lawsuits and taxpayers' dollars been spent on lawsuits when in fact it shouldn't be. So let me say this to you all. A lot of taxpayers' dollars have been wasted. Look at what Fannie Willis did. Fannie Willis went and indicted 19 people. She indicted 19 people because they held their election officials accountable. Freedom of speech. They wanted to say, hey, something's not right here. Now, when you look at what has happened, Fulton County's election attorney themselves have said that those ballots were not certified properly. Now, we heard Gabe Sterling, we heard Secretary of State say that, oh, it was a clerical error. No, that's a line that your lawyer give you to say that you didn't screw up. Why is there just continuous cover up? So look how many millions were spent on that, and look how many millions were spent on these other lawsuits where they just won't give up information. And so I agree with you, enough of wasting taxpayers' dollars. We should have an open government. We should provide information to people so we can understand what's going on. And that's what I stand for, open transparency. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the last luncheon I was at, I thought Janelle King was here, and I thought you were saying that we should not go back to litigating the 2020 election, and we should move forward. I thought you had made that comment in there, and then now I'm hearing a little different take on that you're looking more to addressing some of the issues. I guess my question is, are you in favor of indicting possibly the people responsible for what happened in 2020? Is that something you think needs to be looked at?
My comments are very consistent. One, I'm saying I'm not going to waste any more taxpayers' dollars of being a stonewall, not giving up information. But accountability is another thing. Somebody needs to go to jail for what they did. And you can't tell me nobody didn't do anything.
Well, I know.
And they want us to think that we're stupid, that nothing happened. Look at the local media. There's a cover-up. They're trying to say, oh, you don't believe your lying eyes. Oh, there's nothing here, there's nothing there. We know there was something there. And if there were not, why do they continue to cover up? So I am very consistent in my statement, but the Secretary of State's office shouldn't be wasting money trying to file lawsuits or try to keep the DOJ and others from getting basic information. I was in court yesterday, day before yesterday, with Brant Meadows. Just basic open records information. Here he is there in court, and thank God the judge ruled in his favor twice, where they are trying to keep him from getting basic information. And then want to charge these outrageous charges to even get it, just to delay and discourage. So no, ma'am, I am very consistent, and I am very focused. Accountability has been left out of this equation. Well, I didn't get a chance to expound the last time, if you could recall. I could only basically just give my information. So that was the purpose of coming back. And I hope Madam Chair is flexible here. That was the purpose, to make sure that I get a chance to elaborate and give you an opportunity to ask me those questions. But again, I'll go back to Stop the Steal. The first rally down at the state capitol, not a single legislator was there. I was the only one that was there. I was the one who spoke in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. My name was on that committee list from January 6th. I've always been vocal. I always talked about accountability, that something happened here. People need to go to jail. And so now the others, I can tell you that none of the other candidates have ever said anything about it. Never said anything about it. By the way, I'm also for paper ballots. I think we need to go back, because we can audit that paper ballot much more in a more efficient way than the image. And the image, you can easily make those copies. As a matter of fact, that's why the DOJ wanted access to those ballots. Because look at the absentee ballots. If those absentee ballots come in, wouldn't you think they would have a fold in or a crease in them? Or are they going to be flat like nothing ever happened? So it's more than just counting the ballots, but let's examine the ballots. And so that's why I don't want to waste taxpayers' dollars fighting really the voters of Georgia. I want you all to see. And if something happened, then okay. And I hope there was no fraud, but look, there's something. And they need to go to jail.
Thank you so much.
They need to go to jail.